Welcome to the Making of Me podcast. Today's guest is Anthony Guella, a certified health coach and host of Anthony Guella Awareness. Anthony has overcome multiple health challenges in his life, and through his journey, he has now helped others reclaim their health, freedom, and happiness. His approach breaks down complex wellness topics like nutrition, mindset, somatic structure, and elemental health into practical, easy to understand strategy that empower people to live their best life. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Anthony.
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So, Anthony, can you share your personal health journey and how it shaped your mission as a coach?
Absolutely, man. So I had a Lyme disease diagnosis that lasted for 6 years. And with this, I was experiencing every symptom you can imagine: thyroid issues, joint pain, fibromyalgia. And essentially, I was in an extreme state of suffering, right? And I realized I really had two choices I can make. I can either be a victim or a victor, right? I can listen to outside circumstances by telling me I can't get well. It's basically, this is a thing you have to live with. And I just wasn't going to have that, man. I had to actually listen to my heart and go within. And I chose to be a victor. And it took 6 long years in order to get well. It was very difficult. It was very challenging. But ultimately, that process forges your character in order to live the life that you're meant to lead, right? So it's not easy, but learning all the tools of wellness, personal development, mindset, you really have to overcome yourself. And it was an internal decision I have to make. And I knew that when I get to the other side of this, I'm going to help as many people as I possibly can. That's what I'm doing now, man. I'm on fire. I'm on the side of it, other side of it, just to help as many people as I possibly can. And that's where you find your purpose, man. Like through your pain, you can cultivate that passion for real.
Wow, amazing, amazing. I love this energy, the fact that, you went through those particular
Thank you.
periods or in and you have to change a whole lot of things on the way you do things to get healed. It's really a whole lot, and I'm glad that it now become a message, not just recounting the victim when you were actually in that particular procedure. So what are the foundation principles for nutrition that everyone should understand?
Absolutely. So when it comes to nutrition, there's so much information out there, right? But ultimately, it comes back to the basics. If you want to master anything, you have to master the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And there's certain diets, certain things like that. There's always people that want to push you in a certain direction, and they mean very well. But ultimately, it comes back to 5 things that apply to everyone, right? So number 1 is you eat real food. So that ultimately means what is in nature, right? So you have meat, vegetables, you have nuts, fruits, seeds, legumes, all these things. And just because something's a real food doesn't mean that's right for you either. So just it's a baseline, and then you have to personalize it to you in a sense. Instead of just eating food that was made in the lab, like could have been last week, right? Like it's not designed for biology in a sense. Now, then number 2 is organic. Now, organic is always a thing. Like it was never called organic because it was just food. But now pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, or rodenticides, these are all introduced in the population very recently. And the suffix "side" means to kill. Okay? And what this does is it's designed to kill smaller pests and things like that. But ultimately, it does this through 2 things: it be neurogenic or estrogenic. What that means is it disrupts the nervous system or the endocrine system or the hormonal system in a sense. Now, we know that this really disrupts us in a sense. It doesn't kill us right away, but it does have these effects. And also, we're made up of microorganisms known as a microbiome. And there's some very interesting data showing how these disrupt our microbiome. So just very important to be aware of. It's not being perfect, about progress, so doing the best you can within that. So then we have eating local. Now, when you eat local food, as opposed to, say, at the grocery store that has been food sitting on a shelf for weeks, right? It can lose its nutrient content very quickly, as opposed to just getting it picked at the farmer's market or like as local as you possibly can. Again, it's not about perfection here. It's about doing what you can. It's going to be much more nutrient dense produce overall. So it's just something to be aware of. Also, seasonally, doing the best you can. Now, we live in a world where we can get things shipped across the world, across the continents in order to get whatever we want. That's so cool. We can do that. But also, we want to incorporate foods that are in season, right? Going back to microbiome, we can go and say that 25% of our microbes shift from season to season. And that means they require certain things that are based on the season of wherever you're at in the world. So just incorporating more seasonal foods is also being aware we can have other cool things as well. But then next we have eating according to your genetics and ancestry, right? So now these are basic things because if we have those basics such as like eat real food, eat organic, those are just top tier things, but then you can kind of customize it in a sense. So getting to know your genetics can be, now genes don't cause disease, but they can influence certain health outcomes in a sense. Just being aware of these things, we can kind of more calibrate our response. And ultimately, health comes down to personalization. So we can customize all these things, and we can, once we get these fundamental masters, we can go to other things such as, like, are you better with lower carb approach, or just kind of dialing things in, knowing when to eat your protein and eat your carbs, and just it's kind of like dialing things in to kind of master your own wellness journey.
Wow, wow, amazing, amazing. Thanks for that explanation. So, how does mindset play a role in achieving and maintaining good health?
Absolutely, mindset is the foundation for me because it is really the fundamental building block where you make all your decisions, right? Becoming aware of your beliefs, your values, your standards, all these things, right? And we all have like challenges in our lives, but the question is, what are we going to do with them? Like, as I said, I chose to be a victor, right? And ultimately, you're always going to come up against challenges, but you have to understand that these are just things to qualify you to live the life that you're meant to lead. You can use them to forge your character to kind of live the life you're meant to lead. Like, you can go through it or grow through it in a sense. And ultimately, once we choose that path of of growth and doing the hard thing up front, then we kind of live the life that is easy. But if we do the easy thing, then we're going to live a life that is hard. That's what I find. So just being able to stand for what is real and build your character every single day, and kind of look at it as a journey, look at it as a growth process. And there's always another level. Those are some basic things that I have to say on mindset.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. You mentioned freedom as part of wellness. What does it mean to you, and how can people
Yeah.
optimize it in their life?
Freedom is so important, man. It's like, to me, in terms of wellness, it's like living in your optimal state of health and vitality. Because most of us, we're just walking around. We don't understand how good we can feel because we're just kind of used to this perpetual state of like, it's just not an optimal state of being. Even if we don't have a chronic disease, we're just kind of like, we're used to how we have been in a sense, but we don't realize there's another level. And once we kind of realize like how things influence you and how things kind of like industry, for a sense, like the processed food industry works very hard to make you addicted to the product, right? And there's so many things. They use a gas chromatograph. This is basically a tool that they use to mimic flavor, which is why you can have strawberry flavor with absolutely no strawberries in there whatsoever. And they like make it hard to you kind of they make it hard for you to not eat it, right? And it's essentially something called vanishing caloric density, which is basically they make very high calorie foods, but there's no nutrients in there at all. So you're left overfed but undernourished, which is why you can have obesity, which is so pervasive. You can have that, but you're super undernourished. And so it's kind of this interesting paradox in a sense. What freedom is having agency over your mind, body, and spirit. Personalizing your journey, right? So knowing what is real and what isn't, and kind of like going from there. Because once you learn these tools, and your health, your wealth, your relationships, they all get better, right? So you focus on nutrition, exercise, sleep, all these things that they act as a synergy, right? And you get better over time. And once you kind of master your own journey, you can help other people, which is such a blessing to do every day.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thank you. So, what is elemental health, and why is air, water, light, ethnic, and EMF so important to overall awareness?
Yeah, I want people to understand that health is not just one thing. Like, we often think of nutrition and exercise, which of course are extremely important pillars of health. But there's other things that we don't necessarily think about. Like, as you mentioned, there you have air, water, light, optimizing like things like EMFs and sunlight. Now, we're already doing these things, but the question is to what degree, right? And there's certain levels of these things. I mean, I can get into all of them if you want to, but I can do a basic overview. Like, we can talk about air, which is obviously very important. I mean, the terms of air quality, we have air that is usually 10 times more polluted indoors than outdoors. This is due to toxic cleaning products. We have off-gassing of furniture, all these different things. And just being more aware of these things, like some strategies that we can utilize is plants, right? Getting us some plants in our vicinity. Like NASA has done an interesting study showing how certain plants, like a snake plant or English ivy, that is very good at cleaning the air. Snake plant is very interesting because it kind of releases chemicals at night, which is kind of useful for sleep. Also, a HEPA air filter can be quite useful, which is basically filtering down air to 0.001 microns and basically filtering all the toxicity out of the air. So we're breathing in clean air. And also, if you can open your windows to a degree, because stagnant air breeds pollution. And what the air does, if you go to a beach or any type of vibrant place, the air emits something called negative ions, which is basically charging the air. It's energizing the air. And it's not going to happen if you're just sitting indoors at this stagnant air. So if you can't open a window, that's your best ability. And that's what I would say for that. And when it comes to water, we can talk about the importance of water, what it actually does for us in terms of like maintaining your DNA, in terms of building new tissues, and it acts as a superhighway for your hormones and neurotransmitters. So it's actually very important. And as a baseline, like how much water should you drink? Ultimately, you want to listen to your body to kind of, because it's going to be dependent on your activity level and things like that. So it's not like this general thing is what you should do. But as a baseline, it's kind of important to take your body weight, divide that in half. That's a good baseline. Then kind of base it off your activity level and kind of go from there in a sense. But it's really the same thing in terms of quality. You can go through a reverse osmosis system. That's basically the same thing as a HEPA. It filters down to 0.003, 0.001 microns, which basically it's all the toxicity out of the water, which we talk about. I mean, there's so many different things like chlorine, fluoride, heavy metals that are in the missile water supply. So it's kind of very interesting in terms of that. There's other things like you have well water, which is basically very mineral dense water, and that's very good as well. But the thing about well water is immature water. So you kind of drill down into the aquifers and you understand that there could be some other things. That's why it's very mineral rich. So there may be, to do some testing, maybe high in certain things. So just, you don't need a reverse osmosis system for that because it is usually very good water. There may be some things out there. Then spring water, which is going to be, if you have access to that, that is going to be the most cleanest, most purest thing you ever come in contact with. And this is ancestrally what we did. It's very mineral and it's alive. What people don't understand is natural water is supposed to have probiotics in it. So it's natural, like beneficial bacteria. I mean, it's something that we don't really understand in a sense. But I can keep going down the line in terms of EMFs and earthing. If you want to, or if you have any questions, just let me know.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, how can someone identify the early signs of health imbalance before it becomes serious?
Yeah, that's very interesting because health imbalance is what I feel like most people have, right? It's like something that, like I kind of mentioned before, we just kind of live in this state of being that we're not really understanding there's another level. So it can be looking at low energy, maybe we have brain fog, fatigue, whatever it is. When you have these joint issues, we just think it's normal, but the reality is not normal. These are symptoms. And so it's having that mindset, going back to that, it's like realizing that it's these things like it's not supposed to happen. So I feel like we just think it's the way it is. But ultimately, look at take inventory of your health. Like what are you eating? Like, are you sleeping? Are you just overstressed out? Like all these things, they come into synergy and they create your health outcomes. Are you moving? Are you taking walks? Are you working out? Like all these things. And people will be surprised if you just get your basics down, how much better you will feel, and so much symptoms will kind of go from there in a sense. But ultimately, we don't, which is why chronic disease usually takes place, unfortunately. And we kind of build on these habits. We kind of habit stack in reverse, right? And we get these negative health outcomes, and it's unfortunate. So just kind of do what you can to start now. And it's why you got to value your health. Your health is so important because it's really the foundation. It makes everything so much easier. It's everything, man. It's how you interact with other people. It's just so key. So just kind of like asking yourself empowering questions to kind of leave yourself where you want to go in your life.
Yeah, amazing. It is really, really important. And yeah, checking up a whole lot of stuff is very, very key. Yeah, thank you. So, what are the most common misconceptions people have about nutrition awareness?
Yeah. I kind of like they think health is one thing where, maybe they think that disease just happens and maybe they think they're eating well, they're moving. Now, what I find is when people say that, they're really not, but they just say that they are because they're usually following the conventional advice, unfortunately. But they just say they're eating a perfect diet for them and they're working out. They can also not be sleeping. They can be super stressed, right? And maybe if they're not doing any elemental health, they're probably not getting any sunlight, all these things are required for biology. So you can definitely become sick in that state, even if you're doing those two things that you think are so great, which they are. But again, holistic wellness encompasses everything. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And of course, I get into myths of nutrition and kind of get more deep into that. But that's what kind of comes to mind in the moment.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So, how do you approach helping clients who feel overwhelmed by health information or conflicting advice?
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of paradoxes out there, right? Because you can get conflicting advice on so many different things.
Yeah.
The question is, it always comes back to you and what you need in your personal health journey. This is why it's important to listen to your own body, your own inner guidance, right? Again, all these experts, they mean well. They want to help you, at least for the most part, right? Like maybe someone's trying to sell you something, but I find like they usually have a genuine heart. And it's not that they're wrong in a sense. You have to understand that you have to filter things through the foundational principles as we mentioned, which is like we talked about nutrition, but you can simplify that to everything in a sense. Like, and looking at things from multiple perspectives. So we have the scientific method, which is great. But even in science, a lot of it is kind of paid for, unfortunately, by like pharmaceutical companies. So you kind of have to navigate that in an intelligent way. I mean, it has so much value, but looking at it also from an ancestral perspective as well. Like, what did our ancestors do? Which had a huge advantage in terms of wellness. They were so much more robust, so much more vital. Like chronic disease, it wasn't really a thing until more recent times when we have so many different like crazy things in our diet and our water. So ultimately, it comes also becoming a skilled learner. I think is important. Like learning how to learn. And this in of itself is such an important skill.
Yeah.
And what I find is like holding on to your own beliefs, like what do you believe is real, and see what your results are. Like what are the results based off what you do, right? So kind of interacting with that in a sense, and seeing if this person is maybe they have some type of bias, maybe there's a reason why they're saying that what they're saying, and just kind of like going from there in a sense, and navigating in a skillful manner, meaning that like don't get triggered by information as best as you can, because even that, like going back to mindset, kind of like strengthen your mindset in a sense. Kind of use it as a sparring session, right? And it's like keep in mind that these conversations are usually going on in our own heads. Like maybe we're reading or we're listening to something, like this person doesn't even know we exist, right? So it's like it's just kind of like filter it through your own knowledge and just kind of feel what is right for your own journey.
Yeah, this is really amazing. It's the fact that I just make reference of, especially in this digital age, get there a whole lot of information. Learning how to learn right is very, very key, and learning how to sort information. Yeah, it's very, very key. Yeah, it can be emphasized so that a whole lot of bias wouldn't start building up before you get the right set of information that could actually help in your health journey and in different other journey. So if someone is just starting out their health journey today, what will be their first step you recommend they take?
Take inventory of where you are, right? If you don't know where you are, you can't know where you're going. Maybe you are in a good state of health. You just want to optimize, right? Or maybe you have some type of disease you're working on. So maybe go from there. What are your goals? Where do you want to be? If you are in a disease state, do you want to get well? What is your trajectory you want to go on? And then once you actually find out where you are and where you want to go, create a plan, right? Know how you're going to get there. It's obviously not going to happen in a sense. So basically, so starting at the basic level, I feel like nutrition is a great on ramp because it's something you're already doing, right? Most like you're eating already, as opposed to creating a whole new fitness routine when you have to go to the gym and all these things. It just takes small, simple steps. So it's all about. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. Like how can you focus on the small wins every single day, like and celebrate your progress as well. Understanding it's a journey, and even like when you reach your goals, like there's no there in a sense. Like there's always another level. But also the paradox of success, I find, is to enjoy the moment while always striving for more, right? So it's basically, again, the power of self-assessment is so key. Like what's working, what isn't? Are you succeeding here? If not, why? Like the power of questions, is taking inventory. Is like always like kind of analyzing and working on things to get better and giving yourself a space to think so you can kind of work on your own problems in a sense. And it can be kind of a challenge in of itself, but just basically kind of be in motion, be in progress. And it's always about the journey. That's what I find.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's really been amazing, more like hearing from you and the lot of advice you have offered. So for my audience who want to gain more advice and who want to reach out to you for business day too, how can they connect with you and how can they reach out to you? Where is the best platform to actually?
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's been really fun, and it's always great to get this information out to people. So if people want to connect with me, I have a website, anthonyguastella.com. This is where I write articles, I coach, a lot of free information on there. I have a podcast as well, Anthony Guastella Wellness, where I interview a lot of people in terms of wellness, personal development, mindset, and basically just kind of getting the message out as much as I can. And a lot of solo sods. Basically, the mission is ultimately to bring tools of wellness and mindset, become the greatest versions of themselves every single day. and it's always a process and keep that journey going for sure.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thanks a whole lot. So definitely the link to your website and probably to your show too will be added to the show notes of my audience to be able to kind of outreach out. Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. Your journey reminds us that health isn't just about what we eat or how we move it. It's about understanding our body, mind, and environment to live fully and freely. I thank you for joining us on the Arabian Ayashi today, and it's really, really a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.